Good afternoon, everyone. We have Julia Stepp with us as our speaker today. Julia's provided CART communication access and real-time translation, also known as speech-to-text translation, both in person and remotely for people with hearing loss and other processing disorders. Working closely with the hearing loss community, she has allowed her to understand her role as a hearing partner to family members with a hearing loss, as well as how to perform equal access to communication through her work as a CART provider. Julia, you have the floor.
Thank you. Happy to be presenting today. When Shelley reached out to me, co-owner of Hearing Loss Live, she said, they want your family one, which is actually an 1.5 hour workshop, and it's geared towards the hearing partners. So I'm hoping I adapt it well enough for you guys to use with your everyday life. I don't have a slideshow because this is actually a workshop that I have people journal and talk about things to work on communication skills. So I'll give a really brief introduction of myself. I'm Julia Stepp. I do caption by trade. I actually know April Chandler. I work with her. Her and I often tag team captioning assignments. I saw somebody talk about her in the chat. She's awesome. She's a great CART provider. We as Hearing Loss Live have actually contracted her to run our captions anytime we need live captions for our events, because she's just she's good at what she does. So it was awesome to see her helping you guys there. I stumbled into how important it is to be a hearing partner, and that hearing partners actually don't understand the importance by accident, one through my trade, right? But where my hearing partner comes in is with communication that happened with my grandmother. I grew up with a grandmother who was deaf in one ear and wore a hearing aid on the other. She learned to lip read at a very young age, 8 years old. So I was a little blown away that people struggled with the fact that their hearing loss and their partnership changes. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So it was through HLAA, our local chapter here in Salt Lake, and classes that are offered or were offered at the Sanderson Center, which is our community for the deaf and hard of hearing. Sorry, I'm probably going 100 miles an hour because I'm trying to figure out 1.5 hours in 30 minutes, right? So slow down, Joel. And in captioning for them, I realized the struggle is real, and we have to acknowledge it with each other to have better communication. And so how do we do that, right? Well, one, we have to recognize there's a change in communication, and hearing aids or cochlear implants, hearing devices aren't going to make it go back to the way it was. And I think hearing partners' first mistake is they think it's going to go back to the way it was. And so they don't understand they really are a part of that journey. And sometimes they don't ever figure it out. So for me, I realized early on, after a couple of HLAA meetings, that some of the communication disorder our family had was because they didn't understand the rules. So I've nicknamed them the 3 golden rules. And they seem like a duh moment sometimes, I think, but I think everybody forgets about them. So our 3 golden rules we teach in, I think, every one of our workshops. In order for communication to work, everybody has to do their part, right? So 1, you've got to get their attention. And this is something simple that both parties can practice, right? 2, you've got to face them the whole time you're having a talk, right? The third one is you always got to be within 6 feet. Those in the know that hearing aids have about a 6-foot radius. But the truth is, even hearing people out of that 6-foot bubble, we start to like meander and focus on other things. And is this really a communication talk I need to have? And one of her friends made a comment like, that's just social graces. And I'm like, oh yeah. When I did human resource and management, that was part of our training. You were supposed to look at the employee in the face, talk to them directly, make sure they understood that. We were kind of taught that. And I'm sorry, I've got a shadow coming in on me. I thought, but we don't use it, and why? And one of the reasons I think it happens that we forget about it is in today's age with hidden disabilities, we might be talking with someone who can't look us in the eyes, right? And we want to be polite, but that's where we can use other techniques, okay? And I'll get into those a little bit. But I want you to know I go over and over and over. And I turn my light on, but then I'd have to stand up and you'd see my obnoxious saying on my shirt. The 3 rules, the 3 golden rules, put them on your fridge, memorize them, make those around you, you communicate often with, use them. They're very simple. They are something you can practice with everyone. And so do it. I mean, it does. It really does become rope management. For example, I didn't know it, but I had taught these rules to my kids. Okay. So they were really well aware when we went to grandma's, and we went to grandma's every other Sunday for dinner. You had to get her attention. You had to look at her so she could see your lips. And you had to be, I want to say, on her right side for the best hearing opportunities between them. And I taught them so well, they taught their friends stuff like this. They now use it with each other as adults. In fact, they get mad if they violate the rules. You are talking to me from another room, dude. I am not going to hear you. And so they will yell that at each other. You're looking down. I have no idea what you are saying. And they don't do it in a mean way. They actually, it's just their way of reminding each other. I think because we're such sticklers on this whole rule, my husband's hearing loss got missed for a little bit because, if you didn't hear each other, you went to the other person, right? That's our rule. If somebody doesn't answer and you need an answer, you need to go find them and talk in person and look at each other. So it does really work as a rule. Follow it with everything you do. I'm doing better on time than I thought. Hold on, let me pull down my notes here. Janie gave me a couple ideas on things where there's trouble. And I want to go through those, but I want to ask, and you can raise your hand or not raise your hand. Has your hearing partner, friend, family member that you want better communication gone to the audiologist with you? Have you ever had them sit in the box? Or take the hearing test, or go find out why maybe you hear on Tuesday, but Wednesday after the conference, you have nothing left to offer when it comes to hearing, right? I would suggest take them, make them understand their role in communication with you. Shelley has a couple of times where she's got one ex-husband who actually he went in the hearing booth and then learned using that what she was missing with the audiologist. The other one was they were struggling in a car, so they actually kept notes and went to the audiologist and compared notes, and then the audiologist could see what they could maybe fix. though car is still a struggle. It's actually going to be in a podcast we have come out pretty soon. So that's your first thing. Involve them in your hearing loss journey. It helps us grow as people. And let's be honest, sometimes those around us aren't honest with their hearing loss. We know there's like a 7-year between it starting to be lost. My husband's in year 8, by the way. And when they actually do something about it, because those tools are handy in their everyday life. And I'm a firm believer, when you implement something for change every day that's a positive, it does take effect and it does help you with those that are around you. I'm a firm believer in that. Recognize they will have grief too, and their grief is going to be a lot different than yours. We talk in one of our podcasts about the emotional side of hearing loss, and another one, collateral damage. And it dawned on me, we don't use these terms, but the hearing partner experiences it too. Mine is much different as the hearing partner, but what I have found in classes is that we're afraid to upset you, okay? We know you're going through a hard time. We get it. I know that because one of my grief moments was because I was on the side grandma heard better in a car, she would peripheral lip read me. And I was obnoxious in the car, and she would have a snort and say, "Julia, don't say that," or whatever. Could be something as simple as a giggle, because my grandfather used to say, "We're off like a herd of turtles," to, me fighting with the seatbelt and calling it all sorts of names. So that depended on what she snorted and said. And I remember the day I made my little smirky whatever, and she didn't even look over, she didn't acknowledge. And I realized, wow, this is what they're talking about, because it was just so heart changing for me, right? But the look on her face and the realization that her whole world has been changing was something I needed to be able to say, I understand as well. I can't walk that journey, but how do we come back together and change our journey? So involve them so that you don't get to a point where you're like both upset and then nothing gets resolved, right? We can't stop the collateral damage. It happens, but we can sure, mitigate what happens with it or how much we have. So work together. We have a ton of different events coming up that will help with large gatherings. We do a workshop every year on it, conquering your family. Your next family gathering. Love to have you there, because I say as many people that can get in the know, the better, right? If we share our ideas and knowledge, then each of us is able to step up and help the generation behind us be more in the know, and hopefully be able to control the stigma behind hearing loss. And it is, you have a hearing loss and you're going to use these tools and you're going to live your life. But Jamie gave me some, so I wanted to talk about a couple. If you've got that person who just can't look you in the eye at family dinner, at work, at church, can you bring out your Otter and show them your Otter app, your Ava app, any live transcribe app if you use? My first suggestion is always have some sort of transcription app on your cell phone. You know how to do that. If you want help, we're here. We'll help you with that. I'm sure you guys help each other all the time with that stuff. Introduce it to them. Don't apologize. Just say, you know what? Having a hard time seeing your lips. Can we work this out together? And let's see if it helps me understand you better. Sometimes that's actually helpful for them because again, it may be a hidden disability we don't know about. And now we're in this age where we can do things like this, right? Okay, the car. The car is a tough one, and Shelley and I have traveled a couple of times this past couple months. And so the one thing we always forget is the microphone and just to turn on the app. So instead, I'm trying to do this when I'm driving to look at her so she can lip read. And she's forever going, are you talking to me? Because I am the queen of talk to myself and the car next to me and the car in front of me. And what is this dude behind me doing? And now I'm going to sing a song. So she actually learned to kind of know when I would instead, and I try really hard not to use never mind or I'll tell you later as much as possible because I know it offends her. And I don't want to do that, but a lot of times I really am not talking about anything important. And I don't, I'll tell you when I really need to get a hold of you. So she kind of figured that out. But one of the best tools is get a microphone for your little iPhone or your Android that's external and turn on one of your transcription apps. So then it doesn't matter. Was Sarah showing us the microphone? Yeah, see, yeah. And then you can, like, if it's just the two of you, pin it to the driver and then just put the phone on one of those little clips you hook on your air vent and you can have the phone right there. Or you can put the microphone, if you're in the back seat, you can put it between everybody and hear. Or use it for what I call sitting with silence. If you don't want to hear in the car, say, I'm out and read a book and let them know, if you need me in an emergency, do have a little, yeah, she'd go crazy if I had the microphone and the captions running the whole time. I am that bad. I often walk around the house singing in song. So I do have to get people's attention when I'm being serious. But then you could, if you're in a car full of people, you can use the microphone kind of as a catch-all for everybody. Or sit with the silence, let them know. Our other business partner, Michelle Linder, she often will, if she's with a lot of her family, she'll say, I'm not listening. Well, she can't hear and she can't wear hearing aids, but she'll let them know, I'm out. I'm reading my book while we travel. If you need me, get my attention if it's important. If not, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm not offended. I'm okay with it. We do need our hearing partners to know it doesn't offend us because for some reason we have an innate need to talk all the time, right? I don't know if that's a hearing thing or if it's just me and Ken, who's Shelley's husband thing or what, but talking is a lot, right? Talking from the other room. I have a rule in our house. He who starts talking first goes to the other. So if you talk to me from another room and I don't respond, you come to me. And sometimes we do say, wait a minute or something, because we know somebody's talking to us, but we're not understanding. But most of the time, if we're talking to somebody, it's our rule that we have to go to them if they don't respond or they respond incorrectly. That's, again, something you work out with each other, what works for you, and just use it. And you're going to forget, but using it helps. Restaurants change when we lose our hearing, in my opinion. So the first thing I would, and I don't know if I put any sound print in my list, Shelley, or not, but I think I'll make you guys a document because I can't figure Zoom out. Use sound print. I think it has a lot of Bay Area restaurants. Sound print is a great way to see, they rate it quiet, how the restaurant gets rated. It has a quiet, it has a little, oh my gosh, the name has just escaped me. Has a little, on the app, you can turn on the sound meter and just, see how loud that restaurant is. If you have a favorite restaurant and you guys don't want to change restaurants, What can you do to make it better? Is there somewhere in the restaurant that's better than others that you guys can call ahead and make sure you have a certain table? Even if it's a restaurant that doesn't take reservations, it wouldn't hurt to tell them, I've got a hearing loss, or your partner calls and says, you know, we've got a hearing loss. We really need this table. How can we set it up for date night? And maybe it's a standing something. I think restaurants right now will honor stuff like that because, you know, they want you to come back, right? They like to hear that you're coming back over and over. In my house, I often make the phone calls as the hearing partner. And it's not to take away the job for my husband. One, hearing loss or not, put him on hold and this is what I get. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be on the phone forever. So that's his reaction to a phone call. No matter if it's good, bad, and I have to listen to him, but I'm still on hold. And I'm leaving the cuss words that go with it out. But so in our house, it's just a rule. I make the phone call, and that's okay. It's fine. It doesn't bother me. So work things like that out, you know, don't let them take control, but what can you change if you have to? What events do you like to attend together? Have you talked about how you're going to continue to attend those events? One of them is, you know, do they have assistive listening devices? We have a podcast with Listen Tech where they talk about their ALD locator that they keep updated so you can actually see local venues and what kind of assistive listening device. Do they have a loop? Is it an FM system? It will help you know who to talk to. I think a little bit. And this is something that I call a partnership proactive moment. So you may be the one that needs the FM system or the loop system, but your partner can help you with that. So I suggest both of you get if it's an FM system, both of you get the receiver, use the headphones, see what's working. Because if the two of you are going back and saying this system is out of date and it's not allowing us to participate, it strengthens, right? Just because they don't have a hearing loss doesn't mean they can't benefit from a hearing loop or an FM system. I remember at our little local community center using the loop, and I was like, I'm going to do this every day. Can I have one everywhere I go? Because it actually cuts out the background noise in a conference and allows me just to hear who's speaking. I love it. So those are always very good ways to be able to focus on just what's going on. And that's a way a partner can help you. Do you like going to the movies? Is there open captions at your local theater? We're lucky here. We have like twice a week, 2 or 3 of the different shows have an open caption, but your partner's going to go with you. If they're not getting access, they need to report it as well on why it's so important to be able to participate in open captions with you. Do you like live theater? Do you like live captions versus GalaPro? Are you letting your theater know this? Again, if you do this together, both of you can be highly involved. And television captioning, if it's not working for you, odds are it's not working for them, and both of you need to know how to report it, who's in charge of it, how to get a hold of this station. They can absolutely help you that way and be proactive with you. Invite them to come to your support groups. This is where I learned my best communication tools. This is where I learned the latest apps. This is where I learned that I can tell my husband he needs hearing aids until the dogs come home, but until he is ready to put them on his ears and figure out how to understand better with them, it's not my right to do that, right? because all it's going to be is $6,000 in the drawer. I can guarantee it, because it's going to just make more noise for him. It's not going to help him with the understanding. Where right now for him, using a Wi-Fi Bluetooth is exactly what he needs for the things he wants to hear more of, not necessarily understand. And I mean the TV for most of that. So invite them to come. Acknowledge that that's a great way for them to learn more about the apps and the things you need. At AldaCon, we had at Shelley, and this is Shelley's kind of experience, so I'm only going to give a little bit. We had a person with hearing loss who was just at their wit's end, and they're like, so when do you ask for a divorce? Because I'm really tired of asking. So my answer to that is before you're ready to get to that point. So they need to understand what's important to you. And if it's not important to you, you don't need to change, right? But you do need to get them to walk with you sooner than later and know when you probably need help. And I just noticed Judy's hand up, and I'm sorry, because I don't know how long it was up. Or is that never mind, that's my mouse. Never mind. But so think about that, and not that we're social workers, right? But that's a point when you have to make some decisions there. But my suggestion is don't get there. That's how I look at it. What can you do to not get there? This is a two-way street, and they need to know if they don't do their part, you can't do yours. Again, that goes exactly the other way. If you don't let them know, they can't do their part. So the 3 golden rules: always get their attention, make sure you face them the whole time, and try to be in that 6-foot bubble. And I think the one I didn't go into is the families coming up. And we do go into that quite extensively on November 15th. But, this is where we've had all sorts of fun things said. One of our students a while back says, I made a t-shirt, and on the front and back, it has the 3 rules, so that the grandkids all know they have to get my attention, and I have to look at them so we can have communication. Taking Aunt Mary aside because you haven't seen her all year and you want to talk to her, and having a one-on-one conversation in a quiet place in the house. Somebody I know, and I can't remember which HLAA chapter, they made everybody at the table download Ava, and they had to use Ava at the table for communication so they could watch and see. And then when everybody has it loaded to their phone, you can see who's talking. It does tell you, and you get so many minutes free even with that, or Otter. I think you have to pay for that to have the names. But one friend clips a microphone onto her little dinner plate that she's, hors d'oeuvre plate, and then points it at whoever's talking. And then it goes to her Bluetooth hearing aids. So there's lots of different little ways that you can use in party functions. And I forgot hearing breaks. Have hearing breaks. Let your partners know why you need hearing breaks. My biggest one is tell them to come home after a very busy day of work, put the TV on mute, don't turn your captions on, and you see how long you can lip read. CNN's host, I don't know, pick one of the bad ones. I don't care if it's the local news reporter who's always turning around looking at the map, whatever, so that they understand hearing breaks are necessary. I think even hearing partners need them more than they realize. I recognize it as a captioner, that some days I come home from a full class schedule and I am not hearing the TV. I'm not hearing the family. They know that I'm full. I can't hear any longer. My understanding doesn't change as much. I just can't hear you. You all are like Charlie Brown's parents as far as I'm concerned, because my brain is exhausted. So if I have that feeling sometimes, you guys have it 2- and 3-fold, right? Because I don't even use as many other ways to try to fill in the communication gaps. But so make sure they understand that. And I sometimes just know when Shelley's hitting her wall, there's a look in her face and her eyes. There was a look on grandma, and it was time for a break. So, you know, at your family functions, have some sort of gesture, a touch, something where they can let you know you're hitting the wall, because you might not see it at first, right? Or a way to let you be able to leave so you can go to the bathroom for 10 minutes and, I don't know, play doodle jump or something on your phone. Just walk away and have a meeting before these family events. Aunt Martha's going to talk about her bunion on her left toe for 2 hours. You come get me after 5 minutes so that I can go talk to somebody else or whatever, and be okay with, are you in or are you out moments. Sometimes it's not important for you to be in the conversation. Maybe you just want to be around, and that's okay too. Because guess what? Hearing people have the privilege of doing that all the time, right? That's part of hearing privilege. So be okay with that. They need to be okay with it too. Okay, that's an hour and a half. Now everybody's going to journal, right? No, I won't make you journal, but I do suggest, if you're a journaler, I can't say that word because it's not a real one. If you like to journal, practice it with your partners. Pick a goal, and how do you meet it with communication and hearing loss that both of you can focus on, and use the 3 golden rules at all times. How can you implement it to be something that's done all the time? I told Janie I would put my email address in chat because I couldn't figure out the PDF documents. Oh, Shelley beat me to it. Because I do have a do's and don't for communications that are around the 3 rules, including the, you know, don't say never mind and don't use what. I didn't go into the what rule, but have somebody rephrase, not say what. And the communication bill of rights. So, which we're happy to share. Any questions? Janie?
Is the Bill of Communication rights the 3 things you talked about, or is that something different?
Shelley made, do you want to talk about it? It's a little different. The do's and don'ts are more about the 3 rules. The communication right is your right to have effective communication with hearing loss. And she has some other links in it on why the rights are so important.
Yeah, the Communication Bill of Rights is, let me pull my microphone closer so it gets me better, is more of a set of communication boundaries. And I think, you know, that's one thing we haven't practiced enough with hearing loss, is setting communication boundaries. I have the right to access whatever accommodation that I need to participate. And some of the other things, I'll have to pull it up real quick. Julia can go for a minute.
Any other questions while she brings that up? I probably could have gone through it because I've got the link right here. Oh, no, I don't. Sorry. That was because it was in a PDF file. I'll go through the do's and don'ts really quick. And it's mostly just what I said. Honor your hearing loss together, right? Whatever your hearing loss truth is, honor it together. Express your communication needs. You can't do your part if they don't do theirs, and the other way around. And practice the 3 golden rules with everyone. Know your environment, take to plan breaks, and know all the accommodations you'll need, whether it's CART, whether it's automatic speech recognition, when to use lip reading, and all of your hearing aid and cochlear implant extra tools, Bluetooths, loop, telecoil, whatever that is. Don't bluff or fake it, and don't say never mind, I'll tell you later. Don't say what, clarify what you understood, and then ask for a rephrase or repeat. Don't repeat, try to instead rephrase. Don't depend on lip reading alone, and don't expect lip reading to work in every situation. So the do's and don'ts are for both of you, so that better communication, but it really can apply to either side, because if you use it with everybody, it just, again, becomes kind of a known fact. Shelley, did you find what you wanted to?
Okay.
Yes, I did. The communication, the personal bill of rights for the hard of hearing. Let me pull it over so I can read it better. I didn't ask for this hearing loss. It chose me, and I will make the best of it by being fair to myself. I have the right to have my wants and needs respected by others, which is similar to the personal bill of rights that comes from Edmund Bourne's workbook. Also, the right to be treated with dignity and addressed with respect and courtesy. I have the right to interact socially, maintain social closeness, and build relationships. I have the right to be addressed directly and not be spoken for or talked about in the third person. I have the right to communication access. I have the right to express my communication needs. I have the right to determine my own accommodations, and I think that's something a lot of us have problems with. I have the right to change my accommodations as needed. Needs change, right? I have the right to say no to anything that isn't going to work for me. I have the right to say no to events that aren't accessible. I have the right to take hearing breaks as needed. I have the right to say no when I am too tired to hear. I have the right to make mistakes, and I do not have to be perfect. And I have the right to be happy.
Thank you. That was good. Since we have a few minutes left, 20 minutes left, does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask Julia or Shelley? Sarah? Go ahead.
I wanted to contribute to that point about having to not endure bad hearing situations. I was invited to an author event yesterday where my friend is an author and had 8 other authors there talking about their books. But in this large room, there was no amplification. And people, they weren't even standing in front of the group. So once I realized that, I left. Because I didn't want to torture myself. Hey, how about a sound system in here? And then later in the afternoon, I went to an event it was a theater show, and I asked the sound person, do you have listening devices? And she said, oh, wait a minute. So she went in and got one. She says, I'm going to hook it up and then give it to you. And she did that so that I was able to enjoy the whole show. So there was somebody who was so kind and recognized, yes. And then the other hand, my friend was clueless that she needed some sound for her authored event.
Thank you.
It is very interesting that sometimes those we think who would know to do something just really doesn't dawn on them. And even as a hearing person, a device, something to amplify the sound, especially with a group, means it's just such a huge difference on what we can hear. I prefer to be in the loop when I can. I get that. I was pleasantly surprised. I captioned our basketball at our local university. And they are very good with, they have the FM system charged at all times. They ask if somebody asks for the FM system, they actually ask them, do you know what to do and how it plugs in? Do you need some help there? And they will say, the battery's charged, but if you have a problem, come back. We have more. We'll exchange it out for you. And they offer that and the captioning of the announcer at the gymnastics and the basketball meets. So we get lucky.
Elliot?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jill, I just make a comment that assisted listening devices are far from perfect. They're very good when they work, but I've had any number of situations where I go into an event and ask for an assisted listening device, and like you just said, they have to run around, try to find it. They have to find someone who knows how to hook it up, and then they fiddle around and hook it up, and they hand you the device. And so you go to your seat and sit down and say, well, the sound's not going to come until the speaker starts. And then the speaker starts and nothing, it doesn't work. And of course, by that time you're sitting in the middle of the aisle, you don't want to stumble over everyone. So the bottom line is it's very disappointing in my personal experience, how often those devices do not work. And I don't know if other people have had that same experience, but really a lot of venues have a long way to go to really use that technology effectively.
Mhm. Yeah.
We agree. And if you want to send them to us, we'll be happy to train their staff.
Well, it happens so often that, but I will compliment you, Julie, for your presentation today. I think the idea of boiling down the essentials to 3 golden rules is very effective. I know my spouse and I have discussed this for years, but as she gets older, she's losing her hearing too. So I find she's much better at following the golden rules than she was, say, 5 years ago when she could hear better. So, that helps as well.
Right? I'm pretty sure my boys are better at it than my husband. So use some selective hearing there.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions?
I just have a comment, and that is, I remember when the movie devices, the cup holder caption things came out, captive views, and I had to go to my theater again and again, and sometimes it was in heartbreak because they didn't set it right, and I was getting captions from a different movie instead of the movie I was in. There was a charge, they were floppy, and I'm like, I'm not going to hold this the whole time I'm watching the movie. You guys need to get me another one. By the way, this is very frustrating. I'm missing part of the movie, so give me those free tickets too for the next time. It is like we're training them. And you have to go to those places kind of over and over again for them to get it. And, you know, there is no ADA police. It's us.
No, my batting average is about 50% with those.
And let's see, Larry had something to say?
Well, I wanted to make a comment that we live in a senior living facility, which has all levels of care, including memory care. And we had a great talk from a memory care nurse who goes around and helps design memory care facilities and so forth. And it came out that one of the most, that there's a relationship between dementia and hearing loss. And that people with hearing loss are more likely to progress into dementia because they become withdrawn. They don't want to socialize. They don't want to, talk to people. They withdraw. And that accelerates the process. And people who are family members or caregivers or whatever don't follow those golden rules of keeping them involved. So I think there is a strong relationship here and a very important one.
Mm,
Thank you. And let me give you a personal experience with dementia and hearing loss. I have actually two different ones as a hearing partner. One was my elderly grandmother. The family started having conversation that friends were calling from Bridge Club and her various, music, art. She was into everything, right? She's showing signs of dementia and mind loss. They think she's crazy. Me, who spends a lot of time with her, was like, what are you talking about? She's just fine. And it finally, I think it was even because we'd had something happen at HLAA where I was like, oh my gosh, she's had a drop in hearing. And the audiologist hasn't caught it. And she's lip reading. So she's faking her way through her hearing test. And so that's the first time I got involved, and we were able to straighten some of that out. The other one was actually me missing that my husband was having a hearing loss situation. And it was a very traumatic time for me in general. My mom had just passed away. My husband had retired because he's much older than I am. And I'm like calling my sister on a long walk going, Denton's got dementia. I don't think I can handle this. I don't know what I'm going to do. I was wigging out. For sure, he keeps asking me the same question. He's missing important details. And again, this is where being involved with HLAA, for whatever reason, whatever we were talking about at that thing, they started doing a list of, is your loved one missing this? Is your loved one? I'm like, oh my gosh, he's got hearing loss going on and he's not hearing me. And he's asking this question over and over again, and he's bored at home. Add that to the list. And so I was able to figure out, and we were able to come up with better strategics. Because again, he's not going to go out and buy $6,000-7,000 worth of hearing aids. He'll use tools that are working for him. And one of the big things, I can't hear on this phone. It's not working. And I'm like, dude, I can hear your friend just fine. But he puts his Bluetooth on with his phone and he's fine. So that, yeah, but yes. And that's Franklin has some research out about the hearing loss and dementia, because you end up alienating yourself. And we don't want you to. We want you to live your life. That's our whole goal at Hearing Loss Life. So.
Any other question for Julia or Shelley? Okay. Bonnie, are you waving your hand? You're muted. Bonnie, you're muted. Bonnie, you're muted.
we go. Yay, I figured it out. I just wanted to say thank you. I think it makes us, it just like turns the lights on, and sometimes we don't think of other people not hearing like us. And I think what you were talking about and what we're all listening to is like, there's other people out there that have issues too. And we all just need to be very kind and very considerate. So I thank everybody for your patience, even with me too. Sorry, I unmuted. Thank you, Janie.
Anybody else have something they'd like to ask a question of or share?
I'd just like to say that I think it was a great talk and a good summary, and I'm looking forward to reading the stuff you left for us.
Good idea.
Okay.
Ditto.
Well, I want to thank you, Julia and Shelley, for coming and talking today. I did have to laugh when you said, if you want someone to understand brain fatigue, come home, turn on the TV, turn on captioning, and see how long they laugh without sound. I thought, whoa, that's a good one. So thank you for that. Okay, well, thank you both very much for coming today. I see some stuff in the chat as far as links. And so if I think the email for Julia is in there, I'm not sure. Okay. And so feel free to reach out to any of them if you have any questions. Okay. And thank you both for coming today. And the rest of the meeting, I think, is going to be just a business chat.